Hello and welcome to the Arise interview. 60 minutes of big questions about the big stories from the news and beyond with fresh insight and critical analysis. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Coming up in the next hour, there's mounting anxiety over the rising level of deadly insecurity in Nigeria, concerns that have led to a flurry of high-level presidential meetings and calls at the National Assembly for President Buhari to resign. More than a decade after the Boko Haram insurgency began, there's now a sense that Nigeria's security challenge has gone beyond militancy and that this country is at war with a range of attackers, from kidnappers and armed robbers to bandits and cattle rustlers. We'll examine Nigeria's growing insecurity problem and what's being done to tackle it. And later, a new ambitious initiative by the international organic fertilizer production company Zenith Energy Enzymes is aiming to strengthen food security in Nigeria and attract more young people to consider taking up careers in agriculture. The company is trying to improve yields and boost the Nigerian economy whilst reducing the effects of climate change and protecting the environment. Tall order. We'll find out more in a moment. Now, it seems like every day Nigeria lurches from one security crisis to another, with new challenges replacing old, simmering ones, each threatening to impose ever greater pressures on Africa's most populous country. From a long-running insurgency led by jihadists in the northeast, in which thousands have died, to intercommunal mass killings, kidnappings, cattle rustling, and general banditry in central and northwest Nigeria, as well as armed robbery and ritual killings in other parts of the country. All this insecurity is adding to the country's economic woes and seriously slowing down development. It's led to a series of high-profile security meetings at the presidency and calls at the National Assembly for both President Buhari and his security chiefs to shape up or move out. Mr. Buhari is deploying fighter aircraft and attack helicopters in 3 additional states in the north and center of Nigeria to support troops on the ground facing increasing resistance from heavily armed gunmen. We'll try to get to grips with all that in a moment. But first, here's President Buhari speaking earlier in the day as he launched 3 new combat helicopters.
The platforms were subsequently inducted into the Nigerian Air Force inventory to boost the operational capability. This was necessary to improve delivery of robust air power in support of our counter-terrorism and counter-insurgency efforts. On record that these additional platforms have contributed immensely to the Air Force's successes and dissuasion of Boko Haram insurgents. The Nigerian Air Force, since its establishment in 1964, has been playing critical roles in national security as well as in peacekeeping operations on the African continent.
Well, not the most brilliant microphones there for the president, but I suppose we got the gist of it. For more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the Nigerian defense analyst, Austin Peacemaker, who's traveled through most of Nigeria's current theaters of war, and by the security analyst and former police officer in the UK, Vince Onyekwelu. Thank you very much indeed to both of you. I'll start with you, first of all. Give us a sense of the security situation in Nigeria right now and why there appears to be so much anxiety and all these calls at the National Assembly for the security chiefs to go.
Okay. First and foremost, we know that when the insurgent started, it was from under administration down to the current administration. The security in the northeast, from where I visited, you know, it's more like a refresher session for the locals that are living in those affected areas. They are now finding a sense of security coming back home, my last visit. But it seems other parts of the northeast, down to the north central, they are still one or two attacks by the Boko Haram terrorists and also other bandits. And people, the tension that is rising up here in Nigeria, the tension that is being generated is due to the kidnapping and the killings that recently, especially it came at the point where the president said, oh, they need to withdraw troops, let the police take over. Immediately that statement was made from my own assessment. Then we started seeing all kind of killings from kidnapping, ransom paying, and also cattle rustling. The tension was heightened by that statement, and I think it calls for concern, because why is the statement coming at the time the president is saying that the police should take over, the military should be withdrawn from some areas, and we started witnessing one or two attacks that have made the country insecure, and many people are calling that the service chief should be retired.
All right. Okay, let me bring you in, Vince. The chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, Senate Ali Ndume, said Nigeria is in a state of war, not just with insurgency in the northeast, but with multi-pronged insecurity in other parts of the north and center of Nigeria. How accurate is that description?
I will give it exactly 1,000% accuracy, not even 100% accuracy, because he's speaking truth to power. Obviously, when you live in a society where people are killed daily, carelessly, innocent civilians don't have any trust for their security. People are being murdered recklessly, and people are not brought to justice. One. Secondly, the victims of crime are not compensated. Two. Number three, then the so-called criminals will be later, maybe after 1 year, will be released back to society as rehabilitated in a funny sense. Now, in medicine, there's what we call care system in medicine, for example. We've got, first of all, relief, stop the pain. Number two, correction. If it needs a surgery, do a surgery. Number three, strengthen the tissues, the cells. And number four, wellness. If the person cannot survive, end of life care. Now, in security, you look after victim care. Crime occurs in Kaduna, in Plateau, across Nigeria. The victims are left. That makes them an easy recruiting point for the so-called insurgents. Number two, they will say, we don't know who killed them. They are bandits. They are ghosts. They will disappear into the thin air. No arrest made. Number three, even those that our gallant soldiers were able to fight in the battlefront, arrest them. After 6 months, 1 year, you hear they're released. Widows are growing because fathers have been killed in the war front, and the same criminals are released. As a British police officer, I will quit, because how can I put my life on the line to fight for them, and then you release them back? I won't feel safe.
So with Nigeria now facing this battle with crime on several fronts, how dangerous has life become in this country?
In Nigeria, for example, the value and the quality of life is so petty. It's so minimal, in the sense that smaller countries have even more value for lives. In Nigeria, we're talking about different kind of solutions to security. Example, the community policing. This is what I grew up from the British police. How can you bring community policing when there is no database of who is a Nigerian and who is not a Nigerian? How can you bring in community policing when we don't even know our borders? That people come into Nigeria, we don't know them. Yesterday, we all heard that the Nigerian police carried out an operation where they killed about 250 so-called terrorists. Are they Nigerians? We don't know. Are they from the east, west, north, south? We don't know. How did they come in with visas or not? We don't know. So it's a place of anarchy. And I think we need to speak truth to power. With all respect, we want this to stop. But those in power, so I support Senator Ali Ndume. He was pinpoint, and I respect people that speak truth to power. When lives are killed, poor people are killed because they are nobody. But if they are the sons and daughters of presidents or senators, maybe we'll do something more about it. So it's honest to say that we need to tell ourselves the truth. We need to stop this bloodletting.
Right. Now, you consider yourself to be a security analyst. What security strategy do you think will be most effective in tackling the explosion of crime across Nigeria?
Well, I go for the community policing, and also I also go for something that I call about access information sharing among security agencies. most times there tend to be rivalry among the military. You know, at one particular period we were in Northeast, and the army is calling for army invasion, and sometimes you tend to ask yourself, what about the Air Force? Why is the army calling for a separate aircraft? So I think there need to be synergy between the armed forces and also even
well, there's
the
nothing
police.
wrong with the army having its own aircraft. I mean, the
there's-
Marines have their own
I don't
air
even
division
think
and all that sort of
anything
thing.
is wrong, but I feel so far if there have been collaboration, effective collaboration, probably maybe they would have ended the war so far. And I feel the political tension has also worsened the situation. Truth be told, Nigeria is a state where we are divided politically. You know, it has always been so, and most times you tend to see the people trying to amplify one or two issues. For example, I've been seeing messages across saying that that the Muslim is killing the Christians. I've been to most of the Muslim states, nobody have killed me and all. I tend to see, okay, just recently the Pastor Adeboye of the Redeemed Christian Church of God did a work against insecurity, and people misquoted him and said that he was saying that they should stop killing Christians and all. But if you go there to listen to the footage or watch the video, you find out that that's not what he was saying. So I think there are...
And of course, according to the figures and according to the president, 90% of those killed are Muslims anyway.
Exactly, that's what the president said. And also we have had terrorists eating the mosque, we have had terrorists eating the church. So I feel it's a war that we need to unite. And you know, he made mention that people, some numbers of people were arrested or killed out of instance, and not know which country they are from. The truth is that the war against insurgency in Nigeria, it is a war against Nigeria. And whether you like it or not, there are some foreign heads. But
it's not just insurgency. That's the point he's making. There are operations carried out against bandits, against cattle rustlers, and there is no database. You don't know
most
who
of them
is
are not even Nigerians.
a member of your country.
Most of them are
and
not
who
even
isn't.
Nigerians, because I've had an opportunity of discussing with top people within the military right there in the Northeast, and you know there's something that they will not come out to say, but we have his, and he's saying that there's some time that they will attack Boko Haram, they'll come back with furiously to just pick one or two cops, they'll be selecting cops. And because those people are not Nigerians, they're not even black, they are hiding and they're trying to make sure that they rescue those cops out of the theater of war. And there have been one or two times that they'll be able to unveil one or two.
Okay, so it's a pretty muddled situation.
So
Let me bring you in, Vince. What is your sense of the strategy that the leadership in Nigeria is embarking upon to try to deal with crime as well as the insurgency that Austin was talking about? Are you unimpressed with what President Buhari and his team are doing to get to grips with this surge in crime?
I think Mr. President has done very well in some areas of crime. For example, your normal armed robbery on Nigerian roads seem to have reduced. However, the other side of the bandits, robbery and kidnapping seem to have surged up. And I think as a crime expert, your typical armed robber will be probably scared to be on the highway because he doesn't want to meet the bandits and robbers.
Yeah, but the other thing, of course, is that the argument that's been made is that the armed robber is the same as the kidnapper. They've simply metamorphosed from armed robbery because it makes more sense for them to kidnap someone and hold them for a bigger ransom than to simply randomly stop cars on the road and you don't know how much money they've got in the car.
There's what we call the sixth sense in security. While I was at the Peel Academy up in North London, we were taught the sixth sense. And you know, we have the five senses in human being: the touch, the feel, the smell, 5 of them. The sixth one is something nobody can teach you. It's something you have to have naturally and they can now enhance it. I don't have the right feeling about what you just said right now. For me, how I feel is this.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to hold it. We'll come back to you in a minute. We'll talk about insight, hindsight, foresight, sixth sense. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat about what's being done to tackle deadly insecurity in Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Enyegolu. Emergency security meetings have been summoned in Nigeria amid a heightened sense of anxiety about the outbreak and growth of crime and banditry in several parts of the country, in addition to the already existing challenge of the jihadist insurgency in the northeast. In a bid to tackle the problem, President Buhari has ordered the deployment of the latest attack helicopters in north and central Nigeria. There's also been something of a show of strength by the Air Force, with air displays aimed at demonstrating their combat readiness and ability to contain the latest threats to Nigeria's national security. Just a couple of days ago, the Nigerian police announced that bandits using sophisticated anti-aircraft guns shot down one of their helicopters, though according to the police, the pilot managed to land the helicopter in a safe zone away from the area where the fighting was taking place. Well, here's Nigeria's Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, speaking about what the government is doing to tackle insecurity in the country.
The resultant effect of these acquisitions and reactivations of grounded aircraft has been game-changing. Accordingly, the Nigerian Air Force has flown 36,853 hours in the fight against Boko Haram terrorists since 2015. The service in synergy with surface forces have substantially decimated Boko Haram from their previous positions of strength, forcing them to abandon their so-called caliphate headquarters in Goza. They are currently operating in small groups in ungoverned spaces in the northeast, where they take advantage from time to time to attacks of targets. Similarly, the Nigerian Air Force has flown 8,559 hours in the non-traditional missions of aid to civil authority and civil power, using the same platforms acquired by this administration.
Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar there. Well, with me in the studio, the Nigerian defense analyst, Austin Peacemaker, who's traveled through most of Nigeria's current theaters of war in the north, and the security analyst and former police officer in the UK, Vince Onyekwelu. Thanks for staying with us. And back to you, Vince. You were making a point before we went on break. You were talking about the sixth sense and so on and so forth. Just to move a little bit, on from that. I mean, to an outsider looking in, listening to us, hearing all the reports out of Nigeria, it just seems that this is a country where people kill each other with great frequency over issues of crime, religion, land, resources, and simple, intractable ethnic hate. How would you respond to that suggestion?
Obviously, we have an issue of hate crime in Nigeria. It's obvious. As a professional, I understand what is hate. And obviously, when you have hate, we are not doing much to reorientate people on the reason why they should love more and hate less. In Nigeria, there are old issues that our grandfathers started that even us don't even understand how we started, but for some reasons most of us jump in to support our grandfathers, our grandparents. I think we need to start to live our lives for us. Love a person for who the person is. If the person gives you a reason to disrespect them or to not trust them or to hate them, that is between you and the person. But we should learn not to hate person because he's from that side or from that part or from that part of the country. No, we should first of all, love is natural, love is easier. We should learn to love, mingle. That if the person gives you a reason to doubt them, then doubt that Mr. A or Mr. B. Don't doubt his generation or his parents or his family or people that looks like him. On the other side, there's what we call cost cutting in national security. When you fly shorties, just like the chief of our air staff said, do you know the cost of flying shorties over the spaces? The aviation fuel involved is heavy. Use UAVs, unmanned area drones.
Right.
It cuts that cost cut into so minimal.
Well, in fairness to the government, there was a meeting, I think, within the last day or two with the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, and the President Buhari, and they talked about deploying technology, and presumably that technology involves things like drones and so on. But of course, you're right in the sense that at the moment it's all talk. We haven't actually seen, and I mean, this is something that's been talked about for many years now. But let me bring you in, Austin Peacemaker. In terms of strategy, you've been in the theatre of war in the Northeast and in the theatres of crime elsewhere. The theatre commanders are quoted as saying that they desperately, urgently need helicopters, and that if they had proper attack helicopters, that they would end the war in 3 months. Do you agree with them based on what you've seen in those theatres of war?
Yes, I agree with them. Because I was there when he made that statement. I went there with a team of 40 bloggers and online journalists just to go and get on-the-spot analysis and an assessment. And when we went there, he made that statement. And from there...
Yeah, but you didn't actually get the assessment. You simply listened to what the commander said.
I went around the theater as far as Bama. You know, I interacted with frontline soldiers, even with the locals. I even went down to the market and I saw the commercial activities. I interacted with some of the traditional rulers in that localities and all. What I saw, from what the theater commander said, and from what I saw is that the military, the Nigerian army, their training is different from the Nigerian Air Force training. Why the Nigerian army will be more comfortable fighting with someone from his own force from the air, where the commander can be there assessing what is going on, and they have the same tactics and the same strategies. They're able to fight the war better than the Nigerian army fighting the one from the ground troop and the Air Force, where they have maybe different kind of training. It's stated that there should be that collaboration between the ground troops and also the commander who will be on air. And also
but why isn't there? I mean, you're a security analyst, you tell us. Why isn't there that collaboration? Why isn't there some form of synergy? I mean, if you're going to war, normally there's one commander appointed to oversee everything and to liaise with the commanders of the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines or whatever, ground troops, to coordinate the operation. I mean, why isn't that taking place? And why isn't it obvious to someone like President Buhari, who's a general, that disconnection is taking place?
Because you see, most times when this war is being fought, people come with different reports to the president. Don't forget there's the NSC, there's the army, there's the navy. And most times everybody wants to take the glory. There have been time in this country where there was a joint arrest and they were meant to parade the suspect together. And once certain force did not bring their own, the criminals, everybody was gathered at the press conference, everybody was ready to witness the criminal and hear from their mouth. But the one force did not bring it because they wanted to do the parading of the suspect themselves. That political interest is there. People giving all kind of information to the commander.
Right. Okay. Let me bring. Okay. Sorry. Finish what you're saying.
Okay. And I feel that is not good for us as a country because, number one, lives are being lost. Whoever is being killed, people are dying every day.
Well, it's obvious it's not good for the country. The question is what the solution is. Let me bring you in, Vince. What is your assessment of how President Buhari himself is handling the security situation in this country? He's the chief security officer, and therefore the buck stops with him.
When he came into power in 2015, he came with 3 key strategies to manage insecurity, to grow the economy, and to fight corruption. So if you break it down into economy, Nigeria being, with all due respect, Nigeria being the poverty capital of the world based on international or some international recommendations, that is not favorable to him. Issue of insecurity, you will say totally Nigeria being the most dangerous place to live in the world. After Afghanistan and Iran, Nigeria is number 3. That means Nigeria is more dangerous to live in than Pakistan. Nigeria is more dangerous to live in more than Iraq. Now, these are very dangerous areas. Nigeria is more dangerous to live in, even more than Libya, because we are number 3. It's only Afghanistan and Iran is above us. So security, you will say questionable. Corruption, I don't have much information to talk about corruption. So basically, we believe as a retired army general that we're going to see a strategic reduction in this rubbish called terrorists or insurgents. However, overseas a couple of weeks ago, someone asked me, Vince, is your country state sponsoring terrorism? I said, wow, how can you say that to me? He said, Vince, look at what's going on in your country. People are arrested today. Your own soldiers are killed during the arrest. and after 1 year, the same people that probably killed your soldiers are released, and none of them goes to the court. None of them goes to a competent court of jurisdiction to say guilty or not guilty. They are put in some camp, in some kind of special prison, and after a year, you said they've been rehabilitated. The same people that put them there are the monitors, they are the supervisors, not marching from the external countries, external people to look at. So he said, are you sure that your country is not state-sponsoring terrorism or insurgency? I say, honestly, I doubt that. I think Mr. President is a good man, but the issue of patriotism is one of the issues that will help us to bring solution. There are parts of this country whereby people believe that non-Nigerians are their brothers more than Nigerians themselves. There are parts of this country where people believe that the man across the border is more close to me than my fellow people in the same northeast.
Right, but
northwest.
that's got to do with the vision of the political party, and it's been the same with all political parties in Nigeria.
In the Bakassi,
they just don't have any vision that unites the people of Nigeria in that vision, and therefore
Exactly.
people look for
local support.
Yeah, they look for their own people and attach themselves to that. Well, we're almost getting to the end of this section of the program. Do you think the security chiefs should be removed? I mean, there have been calls for that. Are they partly the reason why insecurity is so high, because they don't seem to know how to deal with it, according to their critics?
Well, that is a technical question, but I feel that
Well, it's a straightforward question. Do you think the security chiefs should be
number one,
removed?
the president appointed the service chiefs, and the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He has all the information at his disposal to know whether these people are performing or they're not performing.
Right.
So, and he has the power to call for their sack or to retain them. And over the years, people have been calling for their sack, and they have decided to retain them. I feel he has whatsoever information that as an honorary citizen might not have access to. So I feel he has a reason why he's still retaining the service chief. But from the look of things, from our analysis, I feel the military need to triple their effort in dealing with terrorism. They have done their best, because there were periods that even Abuja was not accessible.
Okay.
Abuja was not safe. We know there were times that they have to even scream before
Okay.
going to public buses. But look at today, the story.
So you think it's improved?
Yes.
Okay. Austin Peacemaker and Vince Onyekwelu, thank you very much indeed. You're watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead, including a new ambitious initiative aiming to strengthen food security in Nigeria and attract more young people to consider taking up careers in agriculture. Stay with us.